Senyo here, Schultz Outfitters. On today's episode, we're going to be tying indicator steelhead streamers. This is the easy, simple stuff to fill your box to catch a bunch of fish. Here we go. I'm gonna do the little Iceman minnows. Probably one of the most popular flies I do. It's just a real easy, simple minnow imitation. I can make it any color combo I want. It's primarily made with laser dubbing and ice dub. It's meant to be quick, fast, guide style fly. But it's just a good way to give you a really fast, there's not a lot of material, so it soaks water fast, sinks fast, kind of gets in the zone kind of fly. So I like to use red thread for this just to give it a little gill flare. So you're going to take your color of choice. We're going to use, for this one, we'll just use some chartreuse. I'm going to take just a little bit of this laser dubbing, and less is more. So you'll notice this stuff is a little long, so I'm literally going to rip it and tear it to the size that I want. And as it gets thicker, I'll get rid of some of it, because we don't want thickness with this fly. We want it to be sparse. See, so we'll start getting rid of some excess here. So this is going to be the belly. Just lock it in with a couple of wraps, fold it over. Grab our ice dub. Again, you don't need a lot. Get it going. Lock it in the same way. Then what I do is I just give it a firm little pull and stretch that material a little bit and get any of that loose stuff out. I'm going to take some more laser dub, and again, you're going to just rip it to get it to the size that you want. And for me, I want this to be under a ½ inch is what I'm doing, so that's why I'm cutting this so short. So at a ½ inch, once I center it on and fold it over, it's like a �1/4 inch. And it's sparse, it's easy to rip. So I can lock that in. A couple wraps is all you need. Fold it back over. Gives you your little bullet. I literally just 10 wraps or so, and then give it a quick half hitch. So now I'm just going to turn her sideways. I'm going to grab some super glue gel. Just get a little drop of that out. I'm going to put it right on the olive ice dub. Sorry, olive laser dub. Push that eye on. You want it to ride above the, so it's not in the hook gap at all. So you're putting it right on the material. And just put a drop of bone dry in there, just to keep everything locked in. Now we'll cure it, and then we got one more step. Just grab your Sharpie color of choice, or Copic, whatever you want to use. Just going to give it a little bit of parring. And this is not mandatory, but it's a nice way you can give your fly a little different element, a little different look, a little realism. And you see how fast that was to tie, right? So you get a little, if you see some of that belly's a little long, right? I can come in here and just trim it down a little bit by just ripping. And then when you're done, like I said, you can have a whole array of colors to choose from. And the hook I'm using for this is that 2505 Bonito hook for carp through Foaling Mill. This hook is excellent for doing this version, this Iceman minnow on a hook. Typically I tie this fly on a tube, and that way I can use whatever hook and stuff that I want. But for those that don't want to do it that way, that's why I'm showing you the hook version here. So what I'm going to be working on here is it's going to be one of my longtime friend and fellow guide, John Miller, did a little bugger, steelhead bugger, that just cleans house. It's one of my favorite adaptions to have in my box, and it's a pattern I've been using for like 20 something years. It's a woolly bugger, but it's got its own flair and flavor. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through that process with you. So what you'll see is I got some black bunny strip here. So it's a little thick, even though it's a standard. It's a little thick for me. I want to thin it down. You'll notice on a lot of the steelhead streamers that I do, I actually take the time and thin out the materials and get it the way I want it. So I'm gonna attach that to my vise. That way it's just hooked in there like you would hook your hook. And I'm going to grab this little razor blade and pull that hide toward me, and I'm going to come in here and cut that hide the width that I want. So, and in this case, I'm just cutting it directly in half. So that way I have two smaller pieces there. See that? Okay. So now I can tie the fly that I want to tie. So I'm put a heavy brass bead on, copper color. Go ahead and put a good thread base down. So and this is just a standard 2X strong heavy nymph hook. For these little buggers and stuff, I don't like to use the longer hook. I just think these little 2X strong nymph hooks are better. This here is a size 6. Okay. So we'll put that rabbit on. Tie that in. Here we go. I just kind of wet that tail and get it out of the way. I'm going to take some Krelex, some copper, just a little bit, 2 to 3 strands. I cut it so I can fold it over. Just like so. So next I'm going to take just a piece of black Chinese hackle. I just find a feather I like. I don't want one that's too thick or too webby. Come down to the, just spreading those fibers out. I'm going to come down to the tip and tie that triangle in. Take some peacock ice dub. Less is more. Just start dubbing this on. I don't try to go crazy and make it a rope super tight. I just wrap it so that it's evenly around my thread. Like I said, we're doing flies that supposed to be done quickly. So there you go, you can see the rope. I don't want a thick, super thick body here, just nice and even. Need a little more. You got using this peacock ice dub, you're missing out, especially for steelhead. Stuff's amazing. Here we go. I'm just gonna get these fibers going backward. And I'm just going to palmer this hackle. Once I get up here, I just give it a few extra to thicken it up and give it a little bit of that marabou. I'm going to lock that down. Trim off that stem. Wrap it up really good. Now you can add some extra dub if you want here. I don't like to do that. I'm just going to give this a quick little half hitch, and then what I'm going to do is hit this with some bone dry. Pull those fibers back. Just a little hit. I'm going to cure that. And then what we got to do is to finish this, we need to brush it out. So you got all those fibers inside for the ice dub, for that peacock. You know, you want that to have some flair. So there we go. We got Johnny Miller's little Miller Time steelhead bugger. We're going to do like a little hot spot oily bugger. And to finish out the hot spot the way I want to do the hot spot, I just got to add a little bit of color to the hackle. So I just come in and I kind of dot it up. I don't try to like make it all the way orange. I just want some color in the feather, okay? Just a little bit, and I do these a little early so that they can dry, so I can tie this a couple of times, you know, depending on how many of these I'm going to make, what colors I want to make it, that kind of deal. This is going to be like a little white and chartreuse with a little hint of orange. I try to do anything I can like this to do little subtle differences so you're not fishing the same exact thing all the time. So we're going to stay with the same hook. I'm going to add another heavy copper bead. I'm a big fan of copper pearl, these early season flies. I'm going to take some white marabou. I don't need a lot, I just want a little bit. Come in and I pull that stem out the center. I'll measure it out here. So for this one, I'm going to grab some of this green pearl Creolex. Take one of those white feathers that I dotted up with some orange. Just going to open those up a little bit. Stick with that pearl green. Do a nice little thin body here. Need a little more. Just add it. Take our feather. Just nice, even Palmer wraps forward. You'll notice that little bit of orange will pop. What I try to do is pick a feather. I can just get a touch of that marabou. I don't want a lot of it. I just want a touch. Lock that in. And now for the hot spot, you don't want a lot. Just a little bit of chartreuse. I'm going to take it, I'm going to come in and rip it apart. I got a small little bundle here. I'm going to set it right on the top. A couple wraps to lock it in, just like so. I'm going to pull any really long loose fibers out just like that, and that's it. I'm going to come in, finish my thread head, make sure everything's tight. You'll see that orange really hits that UV well. So when you get a lot of suspended elements in the water or steelhead green water and you got a sun out, these phosphorus, the phosphorus in the dye really pops with that UV light, as you can see. And that's what you want to kind of key on. So when you're looking for things that give you a little bit of brightness, you know, you want to use the sunlight or natural UV as your ally, and use materials that have more of a phosphorus dye. So there you go, just a little hot spot bugger with a little bit of a painted hackle to kind of give it that bleedy, little eggy look. It could be anything. So it's suggestive, and that's what I like about it. Is it's always a little different than what everybody else is doing out there. All right, so this next fly we're gonna do is, you know, I was talking to you about like the little mini foo jigs that we used to run back on my home waters on Elk Creek. It's like a little clouser variation. I kind of learned this fly from Don Matthews, and it's like that low clear water, good steelhead green water, just an easy continuous catcher. It's a little emerald shiner imitation. So we're gonna tie this up here real quick for you. So if you're wondering, the hook here, this is that little wet nymph hook, but this is a size 12. Now you could use it bigger if you want, or you could use a different hook. This is just the one that we've always tied it on. I'm going to add a little set of bead chain eyes. Position those where I want them. Lock that in. For this version, I'm using just standard craft fur. So we're going to take some white. Just measure it out. I don't trim it. Just leave it for now. So get your white in, then get a little. You can add a little flash if you want. I'm using the Creolex. This is that like UV purple pearl. Just a couple of strands. I just let everything else hang to the front for right now. Like I said, this is more of a speed type tie. Quick flies for your box with really good success rates. Some olive. Lock that in. So what I do is I just take it all, push it together, I go around the eyes, and I bring myself to the front. Lock that in. That's why I didn't trim it all. I kind of like to lock it all in together. And then I go ahead and put a good thread base down. Go back over. Go back. So you notice it's just olive. Then what I do is flip it. So on this side here, I just put a little bit of epoxy. This is that bone dry. Just let that soak in for a little bit. And I just check to make sure my flash and stuff isn't too long. If I have some long fibers, I just pull them out. Just like that. And then once you're done, you just got this nice little clean little emerald shiner. These are perfect under an indicator. They don't weigh a lot. A little bead gives it some extra weight. And like I said, just like a little clouser, a little mini food jig. Just light on the flash, good minnow imitation. There you go. Next fly in the series for indicator streamers, we're going to do this little micro sculpin that it's brought a lot of luck to me over the years. This is another indicator, easy to tie pattern for your guide or your or guide style fly, I should say, for your fly box. You can pretty much make this whatever color and size that you want. I'm going to be rolling this on the wet nymph hook, and it's going to be a size 6, so it's, you know, total this fly ends at about 1.5 inches, 2 inches. Here we go. So let's put a good thread base down. All right. We're going to give ourselves a little prop here. I'm going to take some of this copper Krelex. Cut a little chunk off it. I don't know, it's about 20 or so pieces. Go ahead and tie that in. Lock that down. Now I don't want this stuff to run long, so I'm just cutting it about, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch or so. Just gonna kind of be a little bit of a prop to keep the very thin bunny from wrapping around the fly. So I'm gonna add a little weight. This is some of that 0.25 or 3/0, either one works. It's more or less, as you can see, it's kind of just centered on the hook and locked in. I'm going to go back to where I started. I'm going to grab that thin cut piece of rabbit. I'm going to separate those fibers. I'm going to lock that down. Several wraps on the top here, and then flip that over and don't trim it off. Just kind of let it sit there. I'm going to use some shrimp pink ice tub. I'm going to cover that body. And take that little bit of rabbit, fan it all back over the top, and lock it in. Trim off that little bit of excess. Now before I go into the next step, I like to take and brush this stuff out really good, the belly, so I get those, because this is primarily what your flash is in the fly, is that little bit of copper in the tail and then that little bit of body. So I just like to rip that up a little bit, give it some flair. Alright, so next grab just a pheasant flank feather. You'll notice these have like a real iridescence to them, you know, like a purple in them. I don't know if you could see that. You know, it's got a real purple hue in there, which our Great Lakes gobies and stuff have a lot of that purple hue to them, so I use that to imitate it. So once again, tied in by the tip. Lock it in. I'm going to get several. Oop, so there. So if you see it break, it's no big deal. Happens sometimes. Just go and make another triangle. Wrap it in. Fold it over. Just keep tying. It's just that easy. We get a good few wraps in here. This is all going to be covered anyways. Just that accent piece. Get rid of the excess. And what I'm going to do is just make sure I cover over that stem real good. There we go. Alright. So now we have that real nice iridescence from that pheasant. Skinny body. And then now we're just going to finish the head. I'm going to take a little bit of laser dub. This is tan. I like to use the light because I'm going to darken it up myself. I'm going to rip this and get it into about a 1/2 inch fiber, so that way I can center it and it'll be about 1/4 inch. There we go. Just make a little V like that. Stick it right over. Loose loop. Give it a couple to lock it down and fold that material over. Go ahead and make a little thread head. I'm going to give this a quick 1/2 inch, and then we're going to coat this with a little bit of bone dry. And then we'll finish this fly. So go ahead and pull that material back. Grab your bone dry, just give it a little coat. right on the thread. Give it a quick hit. And what I'm going to do is just trim this head a little bit. So I just pull the fibers out to the side. So you'll see it kind of fans it out, right? I'm going to give it just a quick trim. Just like so. Brush it up. Your finger. I don't try to get all fancy with it. I just want a nice little head. And then darken her up a little bit. Give it some lines. Some modeling. There you go. Dark modeling, and then I'm going to hit the gills or the throat. And there we go. We've got a nice little peach belly, copper, little Mad Tom, little sculpin, little goby, whatever you want it to be. As you can see, get a little weighted fly, sinks well, works well on an indicator. You know, I'm seeing a lot of fish right now in the rivers, especially the low clear rivers, you know, swimming in reverse, and guys wondering what they should do and all those kind of things. And you know, it's a rare chance that there's a couple of flies that I like to tie for this low clear water. So you get early morning, you know, late in the evening, you know, you want a chance to, you know, do some spot and stalk and long casting and light lines. And I'm going to show you the kind of fly I like to use that I have continual success with. The steelhead will actually lift in the column and eat them. You can get them to sink and suspend. It's simple, it's buggy, there's no flash to it, and I think you guys will enjoy it. And this is the kind of fly I like to run too, as a tandem on like 6-pound and long leader, and make those long casts for those early spooky steelhead or crystal clear water, especially my home waters in Elk Creek. So hope you enjoy, hope it helps you out. Good luck out there. So I'm just going to put a good thread base down. I'm not going to overdo it, just one coat. So what we're going to do is take some of that nice dry fly hackle. Even though we're not going to use it as dry fly. You know, it's more upper surface. It's going to sink a little bit. You know, this is that Russ Madden freshwater long dry fly hook, but it's a super strong hook. It can handle steelhead, all that stuff, no problem, especially on light line. These are great and perfect for that. So what I want to do is I want to take 2 feather tips here. So what I'm going to do is just grab 2 grizzly, it's like 100s. I'm going to cut the tips off. So I'm going to come to the back here, and I'm going to tie these on almost like you would tie biots. You know, give it that like spread. Spread out like little tail. I'm going to lock that in. So you'll see I got like 2 little ears out the back there. So since we're using the tip already, I'm going to come in and just grab the rest of that feather. I'm just going to prune it out so you can see how thick it is. So you can see, you know, it's that nice uniform taper, right? We're going to tie that in. I'm going to take some white super fine dub, just a little bit. You don't need a lot, and more or less the white is so you can see your fly. This thing will land soft. It will absorb just enough water to slow sink. It's a slow presentation type fly, but extremely effective. Take that hackle. I'm gonna nice even wraps. Now I don't want to overdo it. Just nice, almost just like you're doing a little woolly worm or a little micro woolly bugger. Lock that in. Give it a couple spins. Lock it in. And a little epoxy there to get the head locked in good. I think this fly has always worked well for me because it has the impression of being something buggy. Just something simple, sinks fast. Just that little thing right there. That's my, right now, super clear, low water. I'll run 2 of these, about 8 inches apart. And I just let them slow sink or sit just under the surface, and they'll literally come up, sip it down.